The stars were quiet in this part of space. No signals, no movement. Only dust and drifting rock. Lieutenant Commander Rayan Cole sat in the pilot seat of his old ship, the Emberwake, staring at the blinking screen in front of him. He was on a salvage run in the Epsilon Drift, a cold, dead region near the edge of known space. Rayan wasn't a soldier anymore. Not officially. After years of working for the Federation Navy, he had retired early. Now, he worked alone, collecting scrap. Lost cargo and old tech for credits. It wasn't exciting, but it kept him moving. He leaned back in his chair and took a sip of synthetic coffee. Just another empty planet, he thought. Just more rocks. Then his scanner beeped. It wasn't a big sound, just a soft ping. But it made Rayan sit up straight. He tapped the screen. The scanner showed a faint signal coming from the surface of the planet below. It was weak, but it was organic. Life. Rayan frowned. That's not right, he muttered. According to all reports, this planet had no life. Just frozen soil, thin air, and wreckage from old battles. Still, he followed the signal down. The Emberwake landed softly in a wide canyon. The air was thin, but his ship's suit would protect him. Rayan stepped out, his boots sinking slightly into the dusty ground. The wind whispered across the rocks. In the distance, he saw the shape of a crashed shuttle, half buried in sand. As he walked closer, he saw it wasn't just wreckage. It was a Tharun life pod, a survival capsule used by alien civilians. The hatch was sealed, the metal scratched and burned. He tapped on the side. "Anyone inside?" he asked, knowing he probably wouldn't get an answer. But then, a small sound, a weak noise, like a cry. Rayan's heart raced. He pulled out his plasma cutter and began cutting the hatch open. It took nearly a full minute before it popped loose with a hiss of air. The inside was dark, warm, and smelled of recycled oxygen and something else like fear and desperation. Then he saw her. Curled up in the corner was an alien woman, clearly a Tharun, with lavender skin, long face ridges and thin arms wrapped protectively around three tiny creatures. Her eyes fluttered open and she stared at Rayan, not with fear but exhaustion. Her body looked weak, too thin. She hadn't eaten properly in days, maybe weeks. The three young ones beside her looked like small versions of her. Triplets, most likely. They made soft clicking sounds and stared at Rayan with wide, glowing eyes. Rayan dropped to one knee. "Hey," he said gently. "It's okay. I'm here to help." The mother didn't reply. She closed her eyes again and fell limp. But the triplets slowly crawled toward him, tiny fingers reaching out. Back on the ship, Rayan moved fast. He placed the mother, whose name they didn't move away. One of them even made a soft noise, something like a purr. He stared at them, unsure of what he had just gotten himself into. An hour later, the mother finally opened her eyes again. She looked stronger now, though still weak. She sat up slowly and saw her children gathered around Rayan, climbing on his lap and touching his face. Her eyes widened. "Dalen," she whispered in her language. Rayan didn't understand the word the ship translated. "Guardian Father." Rayan blinked. "Wait, what?" The mother stared at him. A mix of confusion and relief passed across her face. She didn't smile, but something in her expression softened. "They have chosen you," she said quietly. Outside, the cold wind howled through the canyon. Inside, something warm had begun. The Emberwake drifted quietly through space, leaving the desolate planet behind. Inside the ship, everything felt different now. Rayan Cole wasn't just a scavenger anymore. He was something else, though he wasn't sure what that meant yet. The alien mother lay in the medical bay, still recovering. Her name, as Rayan finally learned through the ship's translator, was Siratali. She had spoken little, but her eyes followed everything. Calm, cautious, and always watching her children. The triplets, on the other hand, had decided that Dalen, guardian father, was now Rayanne's name. They followed him everywhere. When he worked on the engine room, they watched from the door. When he ate a protein bar in the lounge, they climbed onto the table and mimicked his chewing. He tried teaching them simple words in Basic, and to his surprise, they copied the sounds almost perfectly. They were fast learners. Rayanne sat at the control panel, looking at a blinking star map. The nearest Federation outpost was about 4 jumps away. He could bring them there. Someone else could take care of them. Safer, simpler. But when he thought about dropping them off and walking away, something inside him felt wrong. He looked over his shoulder. One of the triplets had curled up in his pilot chair while he wasn't looking. The little one chirped softly, blinking at him. Rayanne smiled. "You really think I know what I'm doing, huh?" Later that day, Siratali spoke again. Her voice was quiet but strong enough to hold attention. "You were not supposed to find us." Rayanne looked up from the maintenance panel. "I wasn't looking," he said. "But I'm glad I did." Sira tilted her head slightly. "We were fleeing. My mate was injured during escape. He stayed behind so we could run." Rayanne nodded slowly. He didn't push for more. Pain was still fresh in her voice. "Your children," he said after a pause. "They're something else, brave, smart." Sira placed a hand over her heart. "They have bonded to you." Rayanne scratched his head. "Yeah, about that. What does that mean exactly?" "In Tharun culture," she explained, "when young ones face death and a protector saves them, they bind emotionally. It is not chosen, it is natural. Their minds connect." Rayanne leaned back in his chair. "So now I'm stuck with 3 alien kids who think I'm their dad?" Sira looked at him carefully. "You are not stuck. You are chosen." That sentence hung in the air. A mother. 3 kids. All looking at him like he was their protector. He didn't ask for this. He didn't plan it. But when he thought about handing them over to strangers, it didn't feel right. The smallest triplet snuck into his bunk and curled up at his side. Rayanne sighed. "You little stowaways, and what am I going to do with you?" 2 days later, the ship shook. Rayanne jumped from his seat. What was that? The sensors blinked red. An object had entered their range. A small drone, fast, sharp, and glowing with artificial energy. Its signature was unfamiliar but dangerous. Rayanne stared at the screen. "That's not a pirate." The drone scanned them and began to move closer. Sira rushed into the room. "Exovant," she said, her voice shaking. Rayanne frowned. "Who?" She stared at the screen. "Machines, from the black systems beyond Tharun space. They destroy what they cannot use. They hunted our kind, followed us even through warp. If they found us..." She stopped. Rayanne understood. He turned to the control panel. "Then we don't let them follow." The chase was fast and silent. Rayanne weaved through an asteroid belt, dodging sharp rocks and debris. The drone stayed close behind. He activated decoys, then ducked through a plasma cloud. For a moment, the drone lost him, but it recalculated quickly and returned. Sira held onto the triplets, whispering softly. Her eyes didn't blink. The children didn't cry, but they clung to her tightly. Rayanne activated the ship's last missile. "This better work." He launched the missile, then turned sharply. The explosion lit up the dark sky, and pieces of the drone scattered across the belt. Silence returned. Everyone exhaled. Later, Rayanne sat with Sira in the lounge. The triplets were asleep, wrapped in blankets. One had a small stuffed tool Rayanne had given them. "They found us because of your shuttle," he said. Its beacon was still on. Sira lowered her head. "I was too weak to disable it." "It's not your fault," Rayanne said. She looked at him. "They will come again. They do not stop." Rayanne glanced at the sleeping children. Then he nodded, slowly. "Then we'll make sure they never reach them again." The stars outside the Emberwake were calm again, but Rayanne Cole didn't feel safe. He sat in the cockpit, staring at the dark space ahead. His hands rested on the controls, but his thoughts were elsewhere, on the drone they had just escaped, and the fact that it had found them so easily. Behind him, he heard small feet tapping across the floor. One of the triplets climbed onto the co-pilot seat and stared up at him. Ryan smiled weakly. "You're supposed to be sleeping." The small alien tilted its head, then reached up and pressed a button on the console. "Right one, too." Ryan blinked. "You're learning fast. That's kind of scary." In the med bay, Sira Tali was working on a small device. It looked like a broken part from her crashed shuttle. She was trying to shut down any remaining signals, anything that might attract more danger. Ryan walked in. "I thought we took care of the beacon." "We did," Sira said, not looking up. "But the Exovant can still trace us through old tech. They know how to follow energy trails. If we stop moving, they'll find us." Ryan crossed his arms. "So, what are they? Machines? Soldiers? Pirates?" Sira shook her head. "They were machines built to protect their creators. But those creators are long gone. Now the machines believe all life is a threat. They erase anything that grows, anything that thinks for itself." Ryan was silent for a moment. "And you've been running ever since?" Sira nodded. "Many of my people tried to fight, some ran, few survived." Ryan looked toward the door. He could hear soft laughter from the triplets playing in the hallway. "And the children?" "They are rare," Sira said. "Very young, but gifted. The Exovant want them destroyed, because they are afraid." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Afraid of 3 toddlers?" Sira looked up, serious now. "My children can do things no one else can. Things not even I understand." That night, Ryan couldn't sleep again. He lay on the floor of the lounge using a blanket and his second drone, but this one was bigger and faster. Ryan grabbed the controls and hit the engines hard. The ship jumped forward, stars turning into streaks outside the window. He didn't wait. He turned off all unnecessary systems, dropped decoys, and curved through an asteroid field ahead. Sira joined him seconds later. "They followed again?" Ryan nodded. "I think they locked onto our warp signature. Can we escape?" "Not for long. We need a better plan." The chase lasted hours. Ryan flew through tight paths. Narrow, he began using the environment. Baiting the drone through sharp corners, leading it under crumbling asteroid bridges. Every move made the drone waste energy. Just a little more. The triplets, watching from a safe room with Sira, placed their tiny hands on the wall. The lights flickered for a second. Sira looked at them. "What are you doing?" They said nothing. But their eyes glowed slightly and the ship's systems suddenly boosted in power. Ryan noticed the change. "Whoa, where'd that extra speed come from?" Finally, he saw his chance. A magnetic storm. Dangerous, chaotic, and unpredictable, but perfect for hiding. Ryan dived straight into it. Lightning flashed across the ship's hull. The shields groaned, but he pushed through. The Exovant drone followed. Inside the storm, Ryan shut down his engines completely. The ship drifted, silent. The drone fired blindly, trying to trace them. Ryan waited. The triplets, still glowing faintly, closed their eyes, and the lights inside the ship dimmed to nothing. The drone stopped moving. It couldn't see them anymore. Then, using the storm's energy, Ryan launched a short burst forward, just enough to slide behind the enemy. One press of a button, and the last missile fired. Direct hit. The drone exploded in the storm, sending sparks in every direction. The ship limped out of the storm an hour later, damaged but alive. In the quiet that followed, Ryan rested in the lounge again. Sira sat across from him, holding one of the triplets in her arms. "You protected us again," she said softly. Ryan looked at the children. "They protected me too." Sira looked at her kids, then at Ryan. "They are stronger when near you. I don't know why." Ryan shrugged. Maybe we were meant to find each other." He didn't know what the future held. But he knew one thing now. He wasn't just running anymore. He was fighting. For them. The ember wake floated in a quiet corner of space, its engines resting after the wild chase. The stars outside blinked gently. Inside the ship, things were calm, for now. Ray and Cole sat at a workbench in the engine room, holding a burnt circuit in one hand and a tool in the other. The ship had taken damage from the storm and the last fight. He would need to rebuild half the core system before they could jump to another sector. Beside him sat one of the triplets, legs swinging off the edge of the bench, silently watching. "You want to help?" Rayan asked with a small smile. The little alien nodded and reached out. Rayan handed him a small connector wire. "All right, be careful with that. Red side goes here, that's right." "Good." He paused. "You really learn fast." In the kitchen area, Siratali was teaching the other two triplets how to speak simple words in both Tharun and Basic. She held up a cup. Sira smiled lightly. "They trust you." Rayan looked at the three young ones. They didn't just copy his words, they listened, watched, learned. Like tiny sponges, soaking up everything. "They make me feel like..." He stopped. "Like I'm responsible for something big." "You are," Sira said. Later that day, Rayan called a meeting in the lounge. He placed a map on the table, a star chart showing nearby sectors. "The Federation has a science outpost near the Red Dwarf in Sector 19G, he said. "It's hidden, small, but well defended. I have contacts there. If we can reach it, we'll be safe for a while." Sira frowned. "Can we make it before more drones find us?" "If we stay low and keep power use to a minimum, we have a good chance." Sira hesitated. "What if they attack again?" Rayan looked serious. "Then we fight." She raised an eyebrow. "With what? This ship is fast, but not made for battle." Rayan tapped the side of his head. "That's why I've been making changes." Over the next few days, the Ember Wake became something new. Rayan added hidden energy shields, reinforced the hull with scrap metal, and built 2 mini-turrets from old mining tools. It wasn't a warship, but it could survive a fight now. Sira helped him, even though she still needed rest. Her hands were skilled, and her eyes sharp. She used parts from her old shuttle to boost communication and stealth systems. The triplets were never far behind. They watched every tool Rayan used, copied his hand movements, and even helped wire simple systems. Rayan joked, "I should start calling you my little engineers." One of them replied, "We help, Dallin." Rayan paused. That was the first full sentence any of them had said. That evening, Sira and Rayan sat in the observation bay, watching the stars drift by. The triplets were asleep in the next room. Rayan broke the silence. "I've been alone for a long time. Never stayed in one place. Never let anyone get close." Sira didn't speak at first. Then she said, "And now?" Rayan looked toward the door where the triplets slept. "Now I can't imagine leaving." Sira nodded slowly. "In Tharun tradition, we say a protector who stays through the fire becomes more than a guardian. They become family." Rayan didn't answer, but he felt something warm inside, something deep. Hours later, the alarm rang again. Rayan rushed to the cockpit. A small fleet of drones had entered long-range radar. Not just one, 4. "They found us again," he said, voice tense. Sira joined him. "Then we test your upgrades." Rayan gave a half smile. "Let's show them what we've built." The battle was fast and hard. Rayan dodged drone fire, twisting the ship through sharp turns. The new shields took hits better than before. The mining turrets surprised the drones, shooting metal slugs at close range. But it was still 3 against 1. The Ember Wake shook with each blast. Sira took the second turret, firing carefully. Her calm aim took out one drone. Another collided with space debris, exploding in light. The last drone, larger and stronger, came in fast. Suddenly the triplets, awake and alert, stood together in the main hallway. Their eyes glowed softly. They raised their hands. A wave of energy rippled through the ship. After the fight, Rayan patched up the ship again. He was tired, sore, but still standing. He sat beside the triplets as they rested. One of them reached out and held his hand. "Darlin' strong," the little one said. Rayan smiled and whispered, "Not without you." The Emberwake glided through deep space, moving slower now, but safely past the last ambush. The scars of battle still marked its surface. Scratched metal, cracked paint, a few dents, but the ship was holding strong. So were its passengers. Rayan nodded. "An old friend of mine runs it, Admiral Tess Varick. She owes me a few favors." As they approached the outpost, a message came through. "Unknown ship, identify yourself." Rayan tapped the comms. "This is Rayan Cole, requesting emergency docking. Code Alpha Echo 3-1. There was a short pause. Then the voice replied, "Permission granted. Docking Bay 2 is open." Rayan leaned back in his chair. "All right, time to meet the neighbors." The outpost was small but well-maintained. White. Lights glowed along the walls and the air smelled clean, almost too clean after so many days on the Emberwake. Federation scientists and officers moved quickly, eyes widening at the sight of Rayan's strange group. 3 small alien triplets clinging to a human. A tired mother walking behind them. It was not something they saw every day. In the control room, Admiral Tess Varick stood waiting. She was tall, with silver-streaked hair and a serious face, but her eyes softened when she saw Rayan. "Still flying that rusty bucket?" she said. Rayan grinned. "Still saving the galaxy one day at a time." She looked at the triplets. "And these are?" Rayan gently placed a hand on one child's shoulder. "Family. Long story." Tess raised an eyebrow. "Then you better start talking." In a private room, Rayan explained everything. How he found the crashed pod, rescued Siratali, escaped the Exovant drones, and discovered the triplets' strange powers. Tess listened carefully. When he finished, she folded her arms. "The Exovant haven't been seen in this sector for years. If they've followed you here, things are worse than we thought." "They didn't just follow," Rayan said. "They're hunting. And the kids. They seem to be the reason." Sira stepped forward. "The Exovant fear what my children can become." Tess looked at the triplets through a glass window. They were playing quietly, stacking blocks and humming softly. "They don't look dangerous." "They're not," Sira said. "But they are different." That evening, Rayan sat in the outpost's garden dome, watching the stars through the glass ceiling. One of the triplets sat in his lap, playing with a small glowing ball. Tess joined him, holding a data tablet. "You were right," she said. "I scanned their neural patterns. They show a level of activity that's off the charts. The children are using a type of brainwave we've never seen before." Rayan raised an eyebrow. "So what does that mean?" "It means they can do things most species can't, including disrupting machines like the Exovant." Rayan was quiet for a moment. "So they're not just survivors. They're the key to stopping those machines." Tess nodded. "Possibly." The next morning, Sira woke up to a strange sound. She walked into the control room and found the triplets standing in front of a large screen. Their hands were raised and soft light came from their fingers. The screen, which had been off, now showed moving code, symbols shifting, changing, even rewriting themselves. Tess rushed in. "What's happening?" "They're communicating," Rayan whispered. The code stopped. Then a message appeared. "We are not weapons, but we will protect." Tess stepped back, stunned. "They're aware." Fully aware, Sira placed her hands over her mouth, amazed. Rayan looked at them with pride and concern. "They're still just kids, but they understand more than we ever thought." Hours later, Tess brought news. "We've picked up a large energy reading. 2 sectors away. It's Exovant. A command ship. It's searching." Rayan stood up. "Then we don't have much time." "They'll find this place sooner or later," Tess said. "But we can fight them, if the triplets agree to help." Rayan looked at the children now sitting quietly in the corner. He knelt down beside them. "You don't have to do this," he said gently. "You're not soldiers, you're just kids." One of them placed a hand on his. "We protect Dalen." Rayan closed his eyes. He didn't want them in danger, but he knew now. They had already chosen their path. They were not just refugees. They were hope. The alarm rang across the quiet research outpost. Rayan Cole was already awake. He ran into the main control room, boots echoing on the metal floor. Admiral Tess Varick stood in front of the large screen, eyes locked on the red warning lights. "They've arrived," she said, voice steady but tense. Rayan looked at the screen. A huge Exovant command ship had entered the system, long, black, and silent, like a giant blade cutting through space. "They're scanning," Tess continued. "It won't be long before they find us." The children nodded. Sierra looked at them, carefully. "Only use your powers when it is safe. And stay together. Always." The smallest triplet looked up at her. "Will Dahlan be safe too?" Sierra smiled softly. "He is strong, but he needs you as much as you need him." Rayan and Tess prepared the outpost's defenses. The outer ring had a few cannons and energy shields, but it wasn't built for a war. Rayan walked through the halls, checking doors, helping officers move supplies, and making sure Sierra and the triplets had a safe place in the lower levels. But, deep down he knew, nowhere was truly safe. The battle began within the hour. The Exovant ship fired first. Bright beams of blue energy struck the outpost's shields, shaking the entire station. Alarms blared. Lights flickered. Inside the ember wake, Rayan launched quickly. His ship darted through enemy fire, twisting and turning as he moved toward the command ship. Tess's voice came through the comms. "Rayan, they're trying to jam our signals. We're losing contact." "Keep the outpost safe," he replied. "I'll handle the big one." Sierra and the triplets were with him. She sat beside him at the controls, steady and focused. The children sat behind them, holding hands. As they neared the Exovant ship, Rayan felt the ship tremble. "Shields at half, we won't last long." Sierra nodded. "They must see us as a threat." "That's because we are." They reached the main hull of the Exovant ship. It was huge, metal, cold with no windows or lights. Just a dark shape moving through space like a shadow. Rayan flew low and slow. "Looking for the access point," he said. Then suddenly the triplets stood. Their eyes began to glow. They raised their hands, and soft energy floated from their fingertips, reaching out like light threads. On the ship's hull, a hidden door opened. Rayan stared. "They opened it," Sierra whispered. "They're calling to the machine and it listens." Rayan landed the Emberwake on the Exovant ship. He stepped out with Sierra and the triplets behind him. The inside of the ship was quiet. No guards. No alarms. Just long, smooth halls lit with soft white lights. "It's watching us," Rayan said. "I know," Sierra replied, "but it doesn't understand the children." The triplets walked forward without fear. They touched the walls. The lights flickered. A sound began to echo, like a deep hum. The ship was speaking. Rayan held up the signal pulse device Tess gave him. "We need to reach the core." At the center of the ship, they found it. A large, glowing chamber. In the middle was the control node, thousands of wires leading to one tall structure pulsing with light. The triplets stepped forward. The lights turned red. The hum turned into a loud buzz. Sierra shouted, "Now!" Rayan placed the device on the node and activated it. The ship trembled. Then the triplets joined hands and raised their voices. It was not a scream, not a cry. It was music, soft, high, strange, and beautiful. The energy pulsed outward. The control node flickered. The red lights turned white again, then silence. The ship powered down completely. Back on the outpost, Admiral Tess watched the screen. The Exovant ship had stopped moving. She smiled. They did it. Inside the silent ship, Rayan looked around. "Is it over?" Sierra nodded. "This ship is shut down. It cannot send signals now." Rayan looked at the triplets. They were breathing hard, but smiling. "You three," he said. "You just saved all of us." They ran to him and hugged him tightly. "You saved us first," one of them whispered. Rayan held them close. They returned to the outpost as heroes. For the first time in many years, Rayan didn't feel like a lone traveler or a soldier with no home. He felt like something more. He felt like a father. The battle was over. The Exovant ship no longer moved. Its systems were shut down. The threat for now was gone. But something else had started. Inside the peaceful halls of the Arkan 7 outpost, life was beginning again. No long now, they walked beside him with trust and love. Admiral Tess Varick entered the room, holding a data pad. "You've been quiet," she said. Rayan turned. "Just thinking." Tess smiled. "You used to hate quiet." "I used to hate a lot of things." She handed him the pad. "The Federation Council has reviewed everything. Your report, the scans, the footage. They want to meet the children." Rayan raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "They believe the triplets could help in the fight against the Exovant. With proper support, training, safety, they could be the beginning of something powerful." Rayan looked toward the children now gently climbing a plant shelf. "They're not weapons," he said firmly. "They're just kids." "I know," Tess replied. "That's why they'll listen to you." Later that day, Siratali joined Rayan in the lounge. She wore a simple gray robe and her expression was peaceful. The stress that once lived in her eyes was fading. "They are happy now," she said softly, nodding toward the triplets. "They deserve to be," Rayan replied. Sira sat beside him. "They still call you Dalan." Rayan chuckled. "I tried explaining that I'm just a human, but they didn't care." She smiled. "In Therun culture, Dalan is not just a word. It is a title earned by heart, not by blood." Rayan looked. "I never planned for this." "Neither did I," she said, "but I'm glad it happened." There was silence for a moment. Then Sira asked, "What will you do now?" Rayan looked at her. "At first I thought I'd take them somewhere safe, drop them off, start over again. And now?" He smiled gently. "Now I want to stay. For them. For you. For all of us." In the following days, Rayan helped build a new wing on the outpost, a special learning center for the triplets and others like them. With the Federation's support, Arkan 7 became a safe place for survivors from distant systems. Rayan taught navigation and defense. Sira taught language and memory. The triplets helped design simple machines that could bend light and silence, sound. Their minds were growing stronger. One morning, Rayan walked into the classroom. The children were drawing stars. One triplet pointed to a paper with messy lines. "This one is our ship." Rayan laughed. "You made it look cleaner than it really is." Another child held up a picture of the three of them standing under a red star. "And this is home." Rayan felt a lump in his throat. "Yeah," he whispered. "It is." Weeks passed. News spread of the shutdown of the Exovant ship. Many systems began preparing defenses, using what they learned from Rayan and the children. But Rayan didn't chase war anymore. He chased peace. And peace now lived in his heart. One evening, Rayan stood outside the outpost in a protective suit, looking out at the stars. Sira joined him, her suit shining under the starlight. She spoke quietly. "I used to dream of returning to my homeworld. Now I don't dream of planets or stars." Rayan turned to her. "What do you dream of?" She smiled. Laughter. A quiet morning. The sound of their feet running down a hallway. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's home." The ship Emberwake, once a lonely salvager's home, now stayed docked at the outpost. Rebuilt and waiting for the day it would fly again. Not for escape or war, but maybe for exploration, together. Rayan placed a hand gently over the smallest triplet's shoulder. They moved slightly in sleep and whispered, "Dalan." Rayan closed his eyes. He was no longer running. He was no longer alone. He was finally where he belonged.